Hello, hello. I am going to give you a few tips about speaking because we're doing more in person events. Now, just before I go into in person events, the fact is, most groups are still having a lot of virtual events. So that opportunity is not going away. If you do choose to only do virtual events, you will have plenty of options. However, in person is now an option. And there are some things I encountered recently that hopefully I can save you a few headaches, maybe a couple of missteps, just by giving you a few tips. So, four things. First thing is over the next couple of months, if you do an in person event, you may be the first person to do an in person event for 2 years. So the people who support these events, they are out of practice. They may not have done an in person event for 2 years, and so kind of micromanaging it a little bit more. Um, I showed up at an event recently and we were just all out of practice. And so we didn't consider the projector, the handouts, like all of these different things that just are not an issue when when you're doing a virtual event. You're not juggling all these pieces. So think through, over communicate with your contact at the group, and a little bit micromanage it. It will save you some awkward moments. I mean, we had a great time. I was at the Chagrin Chamber of Commerce and we just had to all pull together and be like, okay, how do we do this? And it was an interesting time. And I have to say that if I was not as experienced as I am, I may have been really thrown by the whole kind of figuring it all out in the moment. So, first tip, really micromanage the details of in person events. Have a lot of compassion and grace for the folks who are putting them on. They may be out of practice. All right, so that's number one. Number two is if you go to a gig and it's not well attended, and this is actually a good tip for either live, in person, or even virtual, is no matter how many people show up, if you only have two people there, if you have 12 people there, if you have four people there, no matter what the expectation was, no matter who shows up, serve them at the highest level. And that means following the process. It doesn't, your process of serving by delivering value and then making an offer and doing it in this very precise, structured way, that doesn't change based on the number of people in the audience. If there are only a couple people in the audience, serve them the exact same way. Don't just have a casual chat. You will significantly diminish your opportunities every time you do the process differently than what works. So it's very easy to get in front of an audience and be like, oh well, maybe I'll just do it this. Maybe we'll just talk. Don't do it. Resist it. Serve it the exact same way. Otherwise, you are cutting your ability to be compensated through potential clients. So that's number two. Deliver the structure no matter what, no matter how many people show up. The third thing is, and again, this is kind of a virtual or in person event tip, and that is I'd forgotten that one of the criteria we meant to apply to gigs I accept is the criteria. I'm sorry, I lost my verb tenses or my subject agreement in the middle of explaining. So, one of the criteria we've forgotten to apply to accepting gigs is that my preference is that I only speak at events where the attendees, have paid to be there, either through a membership or through better even is paid for the event. The buy in, the commitment, the attention is significantly higher for groups where the attendees have actually paid to be there. So this is just, again, remembering to apply the criteria that we had set down. And if you haven't set down criteria for what a group needs to consist of, what they will allow you to do or not do, length of time. If you haven't set those criteria, that's a really good idea. It's one of the things we really encourage the speakers in the Simply Get Booked program. Set your criteria. And there's a particular time in the process that you bring this criteria to the group. It's not right up front, but having that to make sure that you're showing up at places where it is really worth it to you. So that's number 3. And number 4 is, and this is for live, for in-person events especially, is remember to practice your call to action before you do it. I've been doing virtual events for years, as most people have, and I'm practically reading the offer or the call to action. Can't do that really when you're in front of an in-person audience, and it can definitely fall by the wayside. So my suggestion, what I teach and preach, is always practice the offer 10 times more than the rest of the content. Practice the offer, call to action, invitation, all of those things are the same thing, but practice it 10 times more than anything else in the program. It is the place where you can get the most like emotional or flustered, or practice it 10 times more than anything else you're practicing for your talk. All right, those are your speaking tips. I hope those are helpful. As you are out there in the world speaking, if you can add tips, please do so. We're all relearning and learning this stuff, so please add your tips, the things that you're learning, so that we can all stay really on the cutting edge of what's happening out there and be serving and enrolling just really, really consistently. So thanks a lot. Thanks for listening.